welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Patrick Christiano, your host, the publisher of TheaterLife.com, a website for theater buffs covering all things theater. And I have a special guest today, my friend Will Pomerantz, the director of the musical Vanities that is coming to the York Theater. It's opening next week, I think. Will Pomerantz, thank you so much to do this. Will is an amazing director. He's worked all over the country. He's the associate artistic director of the Bay Street Theater in Sag Harbor, where he's re-envisioned Evita and just recently Ragtime. They were just mind-bogglingly fabulous. He is a real creative genius. So it's our pleasure to have you here today. Thank you for coming to do this, Will.
Vanities, the musical, is based on a play from the early 70s by Jack Hefner. It was a huge hit off Broadway. It ran for over 5 years. It was kind of a landmark because there weren't a lot of plays about women at that time. And Jack had gone to various producers and said, I have this play about these 3 women. And they said, nobody's interested in women. And he said, and he knew that wasn't true. And he got a producer. It was done in the early years of Playwrights Horizons. It was a big hit for them. It transferred to off Broadway and it ran for 5 years. It was then done all over the country at every regional theater. It's been done internationally. I don't know how many thousands of productions of Vanities there's been. There have been incredible actresses along the way. Kathy Bates was in the original production of Vanities. Sandy Duncan, Stockard Channing. Anybody you know who's an accomplished actress did that play at some point. Then years later, a wonderful composer named David Kirschenbaum began to develop a musical version of it with Jack. And it premiered in New York.
Jack wrote the original book that the play was based upon.
That is correct. Jack wrote it, adapted it, and became the book writer for the musical. And David Kirschenbaum wrote the music and the lyrics. And
I hear the music is really playful and lovely. And
it is very cleverly. The play takes place in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s up to 1990. It starts in 1963, goes to 1990, and he playfully draws on the.
It covers these 3 women through all these decades.
It traces their relationship with each other through all of decades. And each decade, each scene is a different decade. And David has very artfully and playfully drawn from the genres of each of those periods. So in the 60s scene, and when they're in high school, there's all this kind of wonderful girl group, Supremes, Ronettes, feeling to the music and wonderful close harmonies that this incredible cast sings. And in the 70s, it's more of a singer-songwriter, sort of Carole King, Paul Taylor. Paul Taylor's the choreographer. What's his name? Taylor, the singer-songwriter. Yes. That era of the 70s. And then the 80s becomes a little bit more pop rock driven in a wonderful way. And then there's also sort of real classic music theater sounds also within the score. But it's a really wonderful, variated score. And again, very playful, very wonderful.
How many musical numbers altogether?
I think there are probably about 16 to 18, including reprises. He's also, David is a master of the reprise and really repurposing songs in really wonderful ways. I really am a big fan of his work, I have to say, and Jack's, of course, as well, who's a master. So I feel very fortunate to work on this material.
Now, what's real special, now, when they did this at Second Stage in 2009, but it's been revised dramatically.
That's correct. There have been revisions. They did it in a production out in Seattle at Fifth Avenue Theater. It was then done in London in a small theater on the West End. And they worked in both of those situations and created what I consider just really essential new material. There's material that links the scenes together in these sort of beautiful transitional moments that are really stunning, really beautiful music. And I hope I've been trying to match it in the staging. And they also changed the final song. The ending is different, very different than it was before. The approach to the show also in this particular production is quite different. I'm going to give you a little sense of the set. Is a white room. It all takes place in this white room, and there's 3 vanities there. I think you can catch those a little bit. And it's usually done in a very detailed, they dress like in their 60s clothes, and then they dress in their 70s clothes, and they have wig changes. And we're not doing any of that. We're showing passage of time in a very different and very theatrical way that I'm excited about, and that puts focus really on the material and this incredible cast that I really want to talk about, because they are going to really, I think, take New York by storm and blow the roof off of this place. I mean, they already are. We had our first preview last night, and people jump to their feet at the end, and deservedly so for this cast. They are singular, each one of them.
Well, you have a special gift, I mean, amongst all your other gifts, but one of your special gifts is really casting and how you find incredibly talented people that fit the role so beautifully and bring something special to everything that you do.
I did a remount of the Evita I first did at Bay Street, and two of the women from that production are both in Broadway shows now. One is one of the leads, actually, in Sweeney Todd, Maria Bilbao, and the woman who played Eva Perón is in the ensemble of New York, New York. So Gabrielle, I'm so excited. Both of them. And our lead in Ragtime is in that huge production of Secret Gardens. Derek Davis, he's doing the lead in Secret Garden at the Mark Taper. So anyway, wonderful people I've gotten to work with.
Jay Jones is the first. There are three women, and then there's one.
Right. So Jade is a wonderful performer and really singular. And she most recently was part of the DC theater community and really took that place, made a big stir down there. She was recently cast in a production of Beauty and the Beast. She played Belle, and it was non-traditional casting for many reasons. And it really brought a special new aspect to that show, and people were just wowed, and she became something of an internet sensation. You can see her a couple of clips of her from Beauty and the Beast. This will be her first New York show, which I'm super excited to be the show that helps present her to New York.
So it's a New York stage debut.
A New York stage debut, yeah.
A New York stage debut.
Yeah. So yes, we're excited. She's excited. She just recently moved to New York this past fall, and she's really excited, to be part of the New York community. And then we also have a wonderful cast member, Amy Kume. And Amy was most recently in K-pop on Broadway. And she...
Oh, I saw her. She was dynamite.
Right. She's fantastic and plays a really interesting character in the show who has a really interesting journey. So really excited about her. All three of them are incredible singers and also incredible actors. This is a really, more than many musicals I've worked on, it is a true acting vehicle as well as a singing and dancing vehicle. These characters are beautifully drawn, and you really have a journey with them over the course of this evening. And we see them in high school, then we see them in college, then we see them after college, and we see them again even later in life. And they have taken quite a journey together, and it's really quite moving.
And then Haley is the third
Haley
girl.
Pachun is the third woman and in the cast, and she is a Broadway veteran. She's been in many shows, and she was in Hello Dolly, and
she was in Mean Girls.
She was in Mean. That's our cover. Olivia Kaufman was in Mean Girls, but she has been in many Broadway shows. Haley is the consummate pro, and really, we're just so lucky to have her. We're lucky to have all of them. They are.
Well, let's talk about the woman that has to cover all these three roles and learn everything.
Yes.
Still, what's her name again?
It's Olivia Kaufman. Olivia Kaufman. So first of all, I'll say all performers involved in the show. When you think, it's a 3-person musical. How nice and how easy to do versus a 10-person musical or 12-person musical or 20-person. But it's actually more difficult, because it's just 3 of them, and they have to carry the whole evening, and they almost never leave the stage. In fact, one actor never leaves the stage. The other 2 have a brief time off stage. So it's quite something, and it's a lot of material for 3 people, and it's their solos and their duets and their trios, one after the other, and they're real meaty book scenes. So there's a lot already, just as an individual performer. So imagine if you were the cover for all 3 of those roles. So you multiply that material by 3, and it's quite an extraordinary task that she has before her. And she's been a complete pro, Olivia, and she's stepped in during rehearsals. We had an illness at one point, and so it's really wonderful to know that Olivia is there, and if we ever need her, she'll be able to jump in. She's an amazing performer, and yes, was in the Broadway company, I believe, national tour also of Mean Girls. Let me show you the theater. It's a lovely theater. I'm going to pivot around.
Are you in the theater right now?
I'm in the theater right now. This is St. Jean's, and
wow.
It's a lovely, lovely theater. I encourage you all to come out. I'm probably going to...
It's on 76th and...
It's 76th, just off of Lex. So you can take the Lexington line to 77th, and it's literally a block away. But yeah, it's 76 and Lex.
Tell them where to get tickets base too. You want to go to base? It's
Go to
yorktheater.org, is it?
yorktheater.org. So if you just put in York Theater, their website will come up. Yeah. And they're a wonderful company. They've been around a long time. They're completely devoted to presenting musicals, both new musicals and musicals that really deserve another look, such as this one. And we're really excited to be able to bring this material to New York audiences.
The York and James Morgan are absolutely fabulous people. They do wonderful work. I'm a fan of everything they do. And let's thank Ricky Kane Larimer, who is bringing this to us in association with the York.
Yes, correct.
She's a power in the theater here.
Ricky is a powerhouse, and she has really been a wonderful supporter of the York and of my work, and really helped make this marriage happen so that we could work together. And yes, without her, this wouldn't have happened. So a lot of gratitude to her. And in terms of Jim Morgan, I think both he and the York are a national treasure and should be treated accordingly. And they've been a wonderful host.
Yeah. And real quickly, before we do the set, I just want to show them the poster, because we have a picture of the poster from the show, which we can put.
So I'm just going to walk around. There's the set is called, the show is called Vanities. We have 3 Vanities tables. We have these dress forms, which you'll see in the past. I'll just tell you, I talked about this in terms of the approach. The dress forms, the way that we signify the change of time is each scene has a new set of costumes on the dress form. So we see what the characters would have been wearing. In the first scene, they're all in their cheerleader outfits because they're all cheerleaders. In the second scene in the 70s, they're in later in the 60s, the second scene, they're in a sorority. So we see them in their sort of sorority years. And in the third scene, it's the early 70s. So they're in wonderful 70s duds. And then in the last scene, it's 1990, and they're actually attending a funeral, and they're all in sort of stylish black clothing. So it keeps changing what's on the dress forms. The dress forms are used in different ways in the course of the evening.
Now, what about the actors? They have the same thing on throughout?
They do, which again is an unusual, hasn't been done in this way before. But again, in my mind, was an attempt to really put the focus on the material and the music and the scenes, and not sort of be distracted by the sort of detailed, sort of what can easily become kind of a kitschy aspect of things when people do 60s and 70s, things that take place in the 60s and 70s. And it has a more stripped down quality, which I'm hoping audiences will find effective. I certainly find it an exciting way to explore this material, and the creators seem to be very happy with it as well.
What about props? Are you doing without props? Are you using props or not having props?
Yeah, props are kept to actually a minimum. There are some crucial props, like the character that Amy Hume plays. Her name is Kathy, and she is very organized and likes to have her life under control. So she always has this notebook, and she makes lists from starting in high school all the way through her life, making lists of what she needs to do to have an organized life. She has a song called An Organized Life, and it's a wonderful song. And this notebook appears in multiple scenes. And finally, it's a big moment for her, the decision of whether she can and should let go of the list, basically let go of the notebook. And her friends are there to help her, make the right decision there. So there are certain crucial props.
I'm a person. I always had my notebook too.
Yeah, you're a list person, Patrick. Yeah, it's hard to give up your notebook. But then that moment then causes her to go on a certain journey, which is really wonderful. Other crucial props. The other thing is when you have a set like this, which has very little color, there are moments when color appears that's very, it's very exciting, because in a world denuded of color suddenly becomes extremely powerful. And the lighting, I should mention, I'm collaborating again with Mike Billings, with whom I collaborated with on Evita and Ragtime and Bay Street and many other shows with him. And he is an absolute master. And this is a wonderful kind of canvas for him to paint on and light. And he uses color quite
Does it make it easier? Does it make it easier because it's white?
It makes it easier. It makes it easier and it makes it harder. I'll try to make it clear why. Easier in that you can see things when they happen. You really see them. When color changes, you really see that. When you have gobos, or those things that cause patterns to appear, you really see those. The challenge is when you really want to isolate someone or have a one specific part of the stage, it's difficult. It's more difficult because light bounces around the set. If you have an all black set, light just kind of stops. It hits a spot and it stops. Here it bounces around. So then it becomes more challenging in that way. So you gain some things and you lose some things. In this case, I think that we by far have gained more than we've lost by having a white box. But the lighting is absolutely wonderful. The costumes, it's an interesting thing for the costume designer too, because she was costuming the dress forms, as much as the actors. Right. Each actor has their basic outfit, which then has to be designed and specific to them. And but then she's designing these multiple looks for each of the 4 scenes. So I think it's been fun for her too. And she's helped us figure out a way to drape them and make them all look gorgeous. So, yeah.
So are there no other props either, just the notebook, or does some
There are a few others. There's like a period.
I'm driving at this. Go ahead.
There are a few others, but there's a period Life magazine to help us again identify where we are when we are. What else is there? I don't want to give away things, but there's very few props, and it's very much focused on the material and the actors and the journey of these characters. That was the overriding thing. And the other thing I'll mention is, for me, always in working in music theater, the music is what guides me in terms of the stage. Yeah. And I have to mention a couple other people, and I'd be hugely remiss if I didn't.
Please.
Those are the choreographer Shannon Lewis. Shannon Lewis is a Fosse dancer, among other things. She was part of the lineage. She was trained by Gwen Verdon. She was in the original version of the second version of dance of Fosse, sorry, the Fosse, the show Fosse. Yes. There's only been one version, of that. There have been now 2 versions of Dancing. She was in Fosse. She wonderfully did the number I Gotcha and was hugely memorable. You can see it online. But she is a master. I mean, she really is at the top of her game. She's a wonderful choreographer and has brought some wonderful vocabulary to this. And she also really knows how to work with actors, and everything is very character driven, which I really appreciate. And anyway, she's just a consummate pro, and I've loved working with her. The other person I would mention is Deborah Abramson, who's our music director, who has really just done so much work on new musicals, and is just one of the mainstays of the industry. And she is just absolutely meticulous, a perfectionist in every way, and I really appreciate her having such high standards. She really brings a lot to this, and has assembled a dynamite band. Wait till you hear this band. And this, there's some wonderful instrumentation. How many in the band? There are 5 in the band, but it sounds like 10 because each of them plays multiple instruments. So well. The reed player plays 6 different instruments. Yeah, the percussionist plays marimba, vibraphone, celeste, as well as a drum kit, and as well as other hand drumming things. There's a great variety in the arrangements by Lynn Schenkel, and it's a very different sound than what is often produced, I think, by this organization. It has a poppier feel to it, and it has a different sound. And there's all these other influences like Burt Bacharach. There's a song that sounds like a Burt Bacharach tune, which I love, and has that instrumentation from the late 60s. It's so fabulous. So anyway, really, like across the board, this creative team has been amazing. The sound designer, Julian Evans, and who else am I forgetting? Anybody else? Sound, we talked about lights. We talked about, and the costume designer, Barbara Dello. Again, top of the line people that I'm so thrilled to work with. So for me, Will, it's a special gift to pull really gifted people together to share your vision and your passion. It's so exciting to hear you talk about this. It makes me more excited to see it. I can't wait, because you have such passion for the piece, and I've seen your work before. So I'm really, really excited to see what's going to happen with this. Let's tell them all one more time to go to, it's York Theater with an RE.com to get tickets. And the show is running from March 21st through April 22nd only. It's a limited run. Yeah. So York Theater with an RE.org. And if folks, and I'll mention one more thing. If folks can come during the preview period through March 29th, there's a special code. You can get $35 tickets. And that code is VAN FIRST, V as in vanities, VAN FIRST. And you can plug that in at the website and get a cheap ticket through through March 29th, our last preview.
Where else can they find that? Can I post it on my website, that thing?
Sure. Van First, the code. Absolutely, that'd be wonderful.
I'll post it with the whatever. Anyway, we'll post it.
Great. Wonderful.
I'm so excited. So we actually have a few more minutes. We didn't get our crowd coming in. Is there anything else you want to share that we haven't hit on about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to talk a little bit more about the material. I can talk about that, and collaborating with David Kirschenbaum, the composer lyricist, has been a real joy. He really is a true man of the theater. He really understands how theater works. He happens to be a wonderful tunesmith. There's some just gorgeous melodies in this thing and some really catchy tunes. And again, that he really knows how to ride that pop beat so beautifully in a way that is very theatrical. We never really get to like a hard rock thing, more of a pop rock thing. But he really, he understands how to adapt these different genres to the theater in a way that I find very exciting. And again, Jack Hefner, who is a landmark writer in the American theater, again, I just feel so blessed to be able to collaborate with them on this, and they seem really happy, which I'm happy about. We had our first preview last night. Again, the audience seemed to really enjoy it, and I consider it just a sort of privilege to be able to work on the show and to give it a chance for the folks in New York, in the New York area, to take another look at it. Because there was a guy here last night, Michael Glore, who's seen. He sees a lot of new music theater work, and he said it's one of the best new musicals he has seen in many years, actually. He said he was so excited. So this is someone Jim Morgan mentioned to me. So I think if people like musicals, if people are interested in more recent musicals and where we're going, I think they'll really appreciate this piece.
Oh, wow. And it's really timely in terms of a woman's story, because it's women are getting really more bonded with what's happened with Roe versus Wade. Men don't quite understand how it affects. I mean, they do, but it's not their body. It's it's women's bodies.
Yeah, the piece is very much a celebration of women and the relationships between women, and the complexity of those and the importance of those, as well as it's a wonderful critique. Jack created a satire and critique of the way that society gives women certain signals and pressures as to how they're supposed to behave or look or interact with each other. And this is a celebration of three women who are able to throw off those expectations and discover something authentic within themselves through that journey. So it's very timely in that way, as women are losing control and are facing these pressures both here and around the world in an increased way. So
it's their friendship that allows them to discover these things about themselves.
Correct. And allowing them to change and grow stronger, through their friendship and the challenges that they face, within their own friendships too. Yeah, that's how we discover.
Right. It sounds beautiful. It sounds really heartwarming too. I really, I look forward to seeing it. So, and the people who's coming into the theater going to have a rehearsal? What's going to happen now?
People are starting to enter. I don't know. They've been walking around behind the screen, but we're going to start.
But what are you going to do? You had your first preview, but you're still rehearsing.
We're in previews, so we're going to rehearse this afternoon for the second preview. We're going to rehearse tomorrow afternoon before the third preview. We'll put in notes. I took notes on the performance last night. Some of it's technical in terms of lights, some of it's acting stuff. So we're about to start doing that. The actors are actually now getting into their microphones, and we're about to begin. Yeah.
How exciting. How exciting. Well, Will, thank you so much for doing this. We can end this a little bit short. We're only a couple of minutes, and you can go back and take care of all your people and do what you need to do. And we'll be fine. I look forward. So I'm going to see what's opening is Wednesday.
March 30th. I think that's a Thursday. March 30th.
You're one day at a time. Go for it.
Thanks.
Have a great rehearsal.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.